Okay. So y'all, so do y'all remember when I did the post on the gram and I was talking about Kuji Chagulia? That's one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, and the principle is self-determination. And I told you that I named my plant, my tree, Kuji Chagulia. She's actually part of this family. It came as 4, and when I transferred them from the nursery pot, the soil was heavily saturated. She got injured. And so when I removed her, she only had 1 root left. And I took her and I took a chance on her and I potted her by herself. And you can't see, but the little new leaves that were getting ready to come in, they died because their roots got torn off. But I did not give up on her. I refused, and I planted her with the 1 root, and this is how she's doing now. All this beautiful foliage. That's why she's in the shot, because I'm just so proud of her. And the families are expanding up here. Okay, babies are being born. Okay. I'm excited, so I just had to share that with you. All right, back to the episode. Passionate public service announcement. Passionate. Let me tell you something. So what is this Passion PSA podcast? Who am I? Well, they call me Passion, short for passion, no last necessary. Why is there no last name necessary? Because the first name says it all. I am passion and all that embodies. What do I do here? I give you the life coaching that you know you need, but don't enroll yourself in. When did I start? Actually, 2017. I'd leave a PSA on my Instagram regarding something I'd observed, and now we've evolved to this. Why do I do it? Why not? If even one person is able to take away one thing that changes their life, someone else's life, or changes the world for the better, then I've done what I was charged to do. So come on in, sit and listen for a while. There's something here for everyone at the Passion PSA podcast. Greetings and salutations, my beloved passionates, newcomers, visitors, and guests. Welcome to another episode of the Passion PSA podcast, where I, passion no last necessary, the get you right guru, issue a weekly public service announcement about whatever I've observed or was on my mind. This is a for your consideration zone where the objective is to offer you a perspective you may not have considered to both expand your thinking and become a better version of yourself, for yourself, and for others. This is a safe space, but not necessarily a delicate one. I'll never rob you of your right to feel what you feel, same way I won't sugarcoat the truth to make it more palatable. The goal is to get you to higher, more expanded thinking so you can operate as your highest and best self. It is also to give you a hand in your shadow work. Don't just come for the T and cosign thinking of all the other people that the message applies to. Here, we want to ensure that we look at self first and ask the very uncomfortable question, is this me? Is this the experience others have with me? Better to put yourself on Front Street than to have someone else do it while you're idolizing yourself. I know personally, I'd rather climb down off my high horse and walk in humility, having announced where I've fallen short, than have someone knock me off my high horse and drag me through the streets of shame. So if you're new here, we start each episode with affirmations to ensure that regardless of what we discuss and how it may make you feel, we have intentionally started on the highest possible vibration. So let's shift the energy upward. Good? You are always welcome to repeat after me or to use this time to state your own affirmations. I am aware of my feelings. My feelings have value. I am safe to feel what I feel. I am in control of my feelings. I am in control of my thoughts. I think before I speak. I respond thoughtfully. I speak with intention. I speak life. I only allow life to be spoken into and over me. I respect the golden rule. I role model the behavior I want mirrored back to me. I respect others. I respect the needs of others. I honor my needs and expect them to be honored in kind. My peace is paramount. I only allow people into my space that respect my peace. I respect my peace. I protect my peace. My peace is my priority. Peace is my portion. Ashe, ashe, ashe. So before I go any further, I want to define for those who either aren't familiar with the expression my portion or who've heard it and always wanted to clarify but never wanted to ask exactly what it meant for whatever reason. I just want to quickly define portion for you so that you're clear what it means and what it represents. What a dictionary definition. That's what passion takes. Nice and toys show your vocab is expanded. If you know the word is cool, know the meaning even better than the segment, just a moment of enhancement. Now, according to Merriam-Webster, portion has 3 definitions with subsections. So number 1, an individual's part or share of something, such as a share received by gift or inheritance. B, dowry. C, enough food, especially of one kind, to serve one person at one meal. Definition 2, an individual's lot, fate, or fortune, one's share of good and evil. Definition 3, an often limited part of a whole. In our case, my portion is my inheritance, my lot, fate, and my fortune. Peace is my gift from source, and no one's ashy son or raggedy daughter can take it from me, neither by force nor with permission. You better preach today. Moreover, I'm not handing it over without a knockdown, drag out, bloody knuckle fight. It's mine and you can't have it. Find your own. And so if you wonder how I come up with these affirmations, they are from my heart and my mind, and they are very, very much inspired by the subject matter I intend to discuss with you. I characterized them as deliberate in episode 12 of season 1, and I meant that. Everything here is about intention, and so I don't just pluck random affirmations off the interwebs. I allow my spirit to guide me on what to say and how to frame it. So if you recall, today's affirmations were very much geared towards feelings, how we receive information, how we respond to what we're receiving, and how that works within our personal boundaries. I think a lot of us are either missing the interconnectivity of it all or taking it for granted because we allow our perspectives to be extremely limited. And more often than not, that's because we want to be right. We want the way we choose to approach and or handle things to be acceptable because we don't necessarily want to make changes to make others comfortable if the shift in any way makes us uncomfortable, even if the discomfort is only temporary. We just touched on that last week, didn't we? And while that makes perfect sense, the same people whose comfort we don't want to accommodate, we expect them to accommodate us in meeting our needs. Now, I know we touched on this a little in the availability episode last season as well. And what I find more and more in creating these episodes is that there's a constant overlap in the root causes of issues, but either cognitive dissonance. And while the spelling is below, the definition this time is not, because we're doing self work here, right? So yourself needs to ask the Googles what cognitive dissonance is if you're unclear. And not only will the Googles tell you and give you some examples, they might even show you your picture next to the definition. Amen, saints? Let's have a toast for the... What happened? I was going to say podcast. For real, I was going to say podcast. Why are you looking at me like that? Let's have a toast for the podcast. As I was saying, it's either cognitive dissonance or high-level comfort in hypocrisy. But irrespective of which, the point is that these problematic behaviors keep showing up in different areas of our lives. And once we come to terms with first being the common denominator and second lacking some very vital act right, a number of problems melt away with one correction. How did I get here? Story time. So last year, my friend sends me a text and says, "Text me when you get up. I have a quick question for you." I'm already up getting ready for work, so I hit friend back rather promptly. We're talking about like a 10-minute turnaround. An hour and some change later, I remind friend that I'm still waiting on this quick question. Almost an hour after that, friend hits me back like, I'm in a meeting. Okay, first of all, how you tell me to hit you so you can ask me a quick question, then I hit you almost immediately and you don't respond, then tell me a few hours later that you're in a meeting, but only after I followed up since you never responded. Okay, so the day ends, nothing. I don't hear back from friend. 2 days later, friend reaches out with the same terms. Hit me when you get a chance. Want to ask you a question. First of all, nah, B, like what game we playing? So when we finally do speak, I'm low-key irritated because I've been in suspense for 2 days. And when friend finally does reach back, it's the same, hit me when you're available. I was available when you hit me and I answered 2 days ago. I was available when I followed up. I was available all day yesterday when you didn't hit me. I've been available all day today. Like, what kind of quick question requires all this buildup? And of course, somebody's saying, Pastor, you mad dramatic. People be busy. Like, why you so pressed? You are mad dramatic, though. If y'all could stop interrupting my episode, though, that would be great. If you could have some guests on your show, we wouldn't need to be so active. But y'all don't hear me. What I don't hear is you booking these guests. That's what I don't hear. Go ahead with your episode, sis. How gracious. I might need a new staff, y'all. Point is, while someone is talking crazy and feeling like I need to relax, someone else's body temperature just skyrocketed. Because if you weren't ready to talk about it, why'd you bring it up in the first place? That's a fact, though. Real talk. So previously in my life, a relative does something similar, only instead of I want to ask you something, it's I need to talk to you about something. So I'm like, okay, shoot. And relative responds, no, not now, because I'm not ready to talk about it. That why? So you want to talk about something that you don't want to talk about, but we need to talk about it because it's a big thing, but not yet because you haven't fully sorted through your feelings on the issue, but you just wanted me to know that you were pouring over said issue. And once you've had a season to gather your thoughts and feelings, you'll get back to me. But until then, you want me to sit in suspense for an indiscriminate period of time and wait for this other shoe to drop, but not know if this proverbial shoe is made of feathers or lead weights? No, sir, no, ma'am. Not today, not ever. And for those of you who dismiss things of this nature and feel minorly inconvenienced when someone does something like this, or for those of you who like to engage in a murder mystery style conversations, let me tell you something. You are wreaking havoc on people's nerves, and we don't like it at all. Yeah, we're not doing that. Beloved, good intentions don't matter here, okay? If you're not ready to talk about it and the other party in the conversation didn't probe you to find out if there was anything else you wanted to talk about, do not drop these bombs of somewhere in the future I may or may not say something to dismantle your life, and I just want you to know it's coming, but I don't know when, so let's call it to be determined. No, ma'am. No, sir. Because as much as you're trying to convince the other person that you just wanted to give them a heads up or some kind of forewarning or foreshadowing, what you are actually doing is putting them into an elevated state of anxiety because you're in your bag and subconsciously you want them in their bag too. Now, one of y'all is looking at your screen talking about, that's not true, Passion. Sometimes you really did just want to let them know. Because what if it wasn't a bad thing? It doesn't matter. Whether this mystery conversation is to announce that you hit the lottery, you're having a baby, you're moving into a mansion, or you'll soon be taking residence in the cemetery, the receiver is now in a space where all of these thoughts are running through their head. What could it be? Why couldn't they have told me now? Why bring it up just to not talk about it? Was it something I did? Was it something someone else did? This game of 20 questions that they're left to answer is mentally and emotionally draining. And frankly, no one who's experiences frustration or anxiety, and really I should call it angst, no one who's been on this side of the experience cares anything about the opinions of the people who feel like they shouldn't even give it mental real estate. I'm not saying your opinion is invalid. So make sure you're listening with your good ear. Okay? What I am saying is we, the deep and overthinkers, do not elect to allow these questions mental real estate. These questions running through our minds are like squatters, right? They showed up, they don't want to leave, and they have a right to be there, and it's going to take work to get rid of them. Interestingly, people who like to drop off these mystery packages often don't like the suspense of it when it's done to them. And do you know why you don't like it? And don't even play yourself and say, oh, it's because I don't like stuff around. You don't like it like we don't like it because it is stressful. You have 1,000 things on your mind that you have to give your attention to, whether you want to or not. You're off the clock, and somehow you still find yourself thinking or talking about the job. Your business hours for the business you're growing is from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. You were thinking about some non-negotiable benchmarks for said business all day at your day job. Now you got to go home and execute and parent these children and care for this animal and care for these plants, and then go spouse and go sibling. And here comes the clue master texting or calling you, but not to talk about it yet because they'll let you know when. And at this point in the juncture, that's all you want to talk about. Like, don't call me, text me, or message me. Don't communicate with me until we put this to bed, because every time I speak to you or even think of you, it pops up like an inconvenient notification. It is in effect causing the person whose thoughts are being harassed by this to not want to talk to you, and it has the potential to shift the relationship. I could be wrong, but I'm not. Someone is going to say, well, Passion, I think that's a little extreme. I wouldn't say it would shift the relationship. But you be a lie if that was your stance. People who intentionally go out of their way to make you uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable are not operating from a place of love or service. I will say it again. People who intentionally go out of their way to make you uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable are not operating from a place of love or service. The only time it doesn't shift you to a place of extreme unpleasantry is when there was some type of indicator that the big reveal would be good news. Nothing ominous is going to be welcomed. And for those who are still struggling to see the validity of what I'm saying, if your boss said to you, I need to talk to you about something important, but not now. I'll let you know when. Would you feel good about that? The average person would immediately think the worst. Am I about to get written up? Am I about to lose my job? Do I have enough in the bank to cover my expenses? Should I start looking for something else? Like, who wants those thoughts running through their mind when they already have things to think about that require focused attention? Can you agree to that? Okay, so what's the difference when it's someone you're closer to? The nature of the relationship? But is that not worse? I would think the person closer to you would be expected to have more concern for your emotional and mental well-being, no? So here's the thing. The parameters have to be set and the boundary has to be respected. What did we affirm? My peace is paramount. We didn't say it was tantamount to someone else's desire to leave us fumbling in the dark until they feel like shedding light. We said paramount. We either have to stop saying things we really don't mean or start standing on our respective squares and saying, listen, these are my terms. And if you can't, you won't, or you don't respect them, then the relationship has to change. And that has to be inclusive of relatives, because they're the main ones who'll step on your peace and assume it's okay because of the bloodline. But the lie detector determined that was a lie. Peace is my inheritance from source. If your mama left you an inheritance, would you squander it or do your best to care after it? So peace is your gift and your birthright, and you're going to let someone else squander it? You believe that your peace is paramount, but you're going to callously trample over someone else's peace, all to tell them something you're not going to tell them, but you're eventually going to tell them, but only when you're ready to tell them, but not necessarily when they're ready to hear it? So only your peace matters? Because we affirmed that your feelings have value and so does everyone else's. The person you wish would vanish into thin air still has valid feelings, no matter how insignificant those feelings may be to you. And everyone should feel safe to feel what they feel. So your agreeance with their emotional response is actually a non-factor. They have a right to feel how they feel. And if you don't feel like they're entitled to be peeved or incensed by your intrusion, don't intrude. Only speak when you're ready to really speak. Listen, the question was from friend was still a little ominous and looming when we finally did speak, right? But the end was a pleasant surprise. Friend had no, at this time, and probably still doesn't have any idea that this couple days of suspense triggered this, but it did. And every time we take these kinds of chances, there's a strong probability that there is a trigger being pulled in the person on the receiving end. It's just something to consider. If you don't like people triggering you, think twice before you do something triggering to someone else. Role model the ways you want to be treated. Then you don't have to spend so much time trying to conjure up retribution for anyone treating you poorly. I told you how I want to be handled. I showed you how I want to be handled. You acted like you couldn't handle the information. So now you'll have to handle the dynamic shift. I don't really feel like I have more to add, beloveds. You can definitely drop your comments below. You know, I read them. If you have a listener letter that you'd like me to respond to, would you want your anonymity maintained? You can email listener letters to mybrilliantfriendpassion@gmail.com. No, I will probably not email you back, but I will address it here. If you're watching, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're listening, subscribe on your preferred platform. Help me help others. Donations can be made on my Podbean page, through my Linktree, and via Cash App. Do let me know if you need a receipt for tax purposes. If you don't own a business, you already know you don't need a receipt. You want one. There is a difference. And we're not playing that game. Y'all see how many people I have to be to keep this show running smoothly. But that's about it. I think that's all the housekeeping I want to do today. Go forth. Be great. Be filled with bliss. Be armed and empowered with knowledge. Don't bring it up unless and until you're ready to talk about it. In all things, be passionate. See you later.